Okay, today I'm going to show you how I do my texturing on my Boba Fett armour. This is my helmet I'm going to show you on. I've already done, if you can see, it's a bit hard to see in this light, but there's I've already started a bit of texturing on this bit and also this bit, because originally I thought it was just those pieces that were textured on the helmet. But on some more research I found that the whole armour has a slight texture to it. So we're going to do that. Some people use a rattle can or aerosol can type of a granite type textury type spray. I can't seem to find the right texture, and so this is for those of you who have trouble finding the right textured sprays like me. This one has a textured granite effect, but the particles are too big. Didn't like it. So what I'm going to use is my spray putty. This is a putty, a liquid putty, which is used in a spray gun in the automotive industry, and that I use on all of my 3D prints. I'm going to take this and I'm going to use a brush, and I'm basically just going to dapple the putty onto the surface of the helmet. I tried it just with the putty on its own, because putty does have that sort of thicker sort of consistency to fill in holes and cracks and things like that, but it wasn't thick enough. So the secret is to thicken it up with some filler. Now there's different types of filler. You can use Capsule, you can use talc. They have some certain types of talc. I believe you can actually use normal baby talcum powder to thicken it up. But what I'm using, and I've had this bag for years and years. I have a big bag of silica flour, which is basically fiberglass powder. Nasty stuff if you breathe it in. I am going to be breathing it in today, in case of some people say I'm not wearing a mask. It's too late. But anyway, I'm going to show you what to do. So I've got some brushes. I've got two brushes, because the stuff, as you're doing it, it tends to dry off, and so then I'll stop before this gets too congealed and clogged up, the bristles. And I'll have some thinners in a cup, which I just quickly swap, and when I feel I'm going to do a swap with the brushes, I wash this off, rinse it off, and it dries off really quick because the thinners evaporate. And then I'll go on to my second brush, and then same thing, and I rotate my brushes to keep those nice fine bristle patterns happening in the spray putty. Okay, so I'll show you how I'm going to do it. You'll need measuring tools, because just for ratio of spray putty to powder. And I'm going to thicken it up. I'm going to thicken my putty up with a filler to a sort of like cream consistency. So not too thick, but just enough so that the spray putty liquid sort of has that peak it stands. If you work on cream, you know what peaks and all of those things are. But I'm not much of a cook. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into it, and I'll show you how I do it. Okay, so my spray putty, not very organized here, but look, as long as it gets the job done. So I'm going to measure out my spray putty. I'll go 1, 2 of those are starters, I think. Yeah. And then the filler. This one's a little bit smaller, so I'm going to go 2 of these. Try not to sort of get it into the air too much. So I'm using 2 of those into the cup. I'm going to mix that around slowly so as not to get the powder flying everywhere. And this stuff mixes in so well. Really, really fine. It mixes in so well. But we don't want to overclog it. There you go. And now that I've got that nice creamy consistency, you can see it there. Look at that. It's like cream. So it has thickened up a good bit. It's beautiful. And then what I'm going to do is, I've got to get my thinner ready to go to clean my brushes off. So on a little container here, stick some thinner in there for cleaning my brushes in between the dabbing. Right, so I've just got to sort of takeaway container here. I'm going to pour this into this so that I can just dab the brush in. And it was sort of like dry brushing, only dabbing. There's not much in here, but I should have made a little bit more, but I just want to show you how we do it. Right, off we go. Let's get this down here. We'll start at the very top of the dome. I'm just going to stick it on like that. You don't have to be too careful at the start, but we're just getting it on there like that. And now we're going to work this over. And you think you've got it on too thick in one spot, but that's okay. You sort of thin it out. And you rotate the brush, really different strokes. You don't want to flatten, hit it like this, getting those long bristles. No, you want the tip. So you see, you're just tipping the tips. And you sort of want to try and get that all evened out, rotating that brush. And as you can see, you get this textured effect, which is not too rough when you see it from, see, that distance. But as I say, with the armour, when you get close up, you can notice it does have this textured effect. And you can get it quite an even coverage. And that's how I do my texturing on my Boba Fett armour. Simple. I'm not going to do the whole thing with it recording. I don't want to bore you. I'll show you when it's done. So just coming to the end of it now, just about finished. And yeah, let's have a look. See? Let's take this off. Let's see what this looks like. As I say, it might look a little bit blotchy because as you're blotching it, you're getting wet, little wet areas as well, which has to all dry off and blend. But once I get a primer on, it'll all look nice and even. So you can see, probably because of the prey or the grey undercoat there, it might look a bit patchy because you see bits of the grey through. But yeah, you can't really notice it too much from a distance. But when you come up close, if the camera can catch it a little bit, let's see if we can get it good. Yeah, you can see you get a texture on there. See that? It looks quite rough up close, but it's really not as rough as it looks on the camera. And as I said, like by the time I get a primer on there, it'll give it another little evenish type of coverage on it, but still keeping that texture. And that's how, yeah, the texture, well, how I'm doing my texture on my helmets. The spray, I've seen some fantastic results with the sprays on some of the Facebook forums and things like that. They're so fantastic, but as I say, these are expensive and I just can't keep buying textured paints just to see if it's going to work. And I sort of know, I've played around with this and I know that this, my little technique works at putting a texture on a surface. So, and it's easy. A little bit more time consuming than spraying, but it's part of the process, part of the fun. So I hope that's helped somebody who is a bit stuck with doing their texture on their armour. Peace.